EMMC, for those of you who are sort of old-timers in the conference, and there's a number of us here, we've been hearing a lot about Bolivia over the years. Since the late 60s, EMMC has done a variety of ministries and have been involved in people and other aspects of helping people in Bolivia. For some years, it was the work among the Spanish, and that will be explained or given further information later on this afternoon when Sharon Soper, who's just coming in, and Lawrence Giesbrecht, when they dialogue a little bit about some of the things we remember, and then Sharon will update us on some of the things she saw in the Liab churches just this past couple of months when she spent 10 or 12 weeks there. What also has been happening in the last especially 8 or 10 or maybe a dozen years is the work among the Low German Mennonite people. And as David Jansen this morning mentioned in the session, there are approximately 100,000, could be 80 to 100,000 Low German speaking Mennonites in 80 to 90 colonies in Bolivia. And many of them are very needy. And our conference, working together with the Lakrit Bergsthaler Conference, has been trying to offer hope to those who have been excommunicated from the colony and now need help or are asking for help. So we're going to hear updates on that. Abe and Margaret Harder have been in Bolivia now just over 2 years. They spent a year further east in the eastern area near San Jose, near that Ministry of Green Farm now. And now the last year or so have been the pastor at the Villanueva Church. And we'll ask them to talk about the ministry of MEM and specifically also their part in it. So, Abe and Margaret.
Hi. Well, while he is busy talking, maybe I'll talk. Good to see all of you. Obviously, most of you support us in your prayers and in other things, and we are very grateful for that. If it wasn't for you guys at home, we would be no good.
Ganda. Vi schauen med plotische Menschen, dann reden wir plotisch. Okay, säga español si quieren. Okay, we'll try that in English then. Hi, we are Abe and Margaret. As Abe has just said, we have been in Bolivia for the last 2 years, but let me just introduce it this way. For 25 years, I prayed. I didn't know that would happen right away. When Jack and Ruth Hepner came to Belize, way, way back, they did a report in our church in Blue Creek, and I was interested in the work in Bolivia, and I started praying that God would send me. And now we've been there 2 years. And we have this privilege, this awesome privilege of seeing God work in the lives of these people who are so desperately lost. It's a beautiful privilege for me to be able to preach to them. And I would say, together with Paul in Ephesians 3, verse 8, although I am less than the least of God's people, the grace was given me to preach to the Gentiles or to the Bolivian Mennonites the unsearchable riches of Christ. To us, that is an opportunity. So we're going to take you through the 2 years that we've been there. We'll kind of rush you through it with a whole bunch of pictures and just kind of talk about it as we go. And then in the end, we want to tell you some of the stories. We'll tell some along the way, but we'll try to tell you some at the end. We'll close off with, and then we'll give you some chance to ask questions. So we arrived in Santa Cruz on April 8, 2015. The plan was we would work in San Jose 60% of our time on radio, 40% reaching out into the communities. And we found a beautiful country, and here we just want to show you a few things. But while we're doing so, when we got to Bolivia, we found out there was no radio in San Jose. And so that 60% of our time was gone. And we'd have to try and find a way to fill that time, to use that time meaningfully. And so Abe said, well, go visit the country, go find out what it's like, and go visit Aguascalientes and all those places. And we did, and we've seen some beautiful stuff. So we've had some friends come visit us, and we just want to tell you, Bolivia is a very beautiful country.
This is my chicken barn. I kind of, it looks a little more tidy already by now. This was when we were first moving there. But I enjoy being able to go to the back, talk to my chickens, and just kind of see the different behaviors the different chickens have. I know that's maybe not mission work, but it's good. Yes, they do. Yes, I do have some that lay blue eggs. Pardon? They could be. I'm not sure. I'm not very smart when it comes to chickens.
So we're not the typical missionary who just goes and who just does this type of thing. We mow our own lawn. We look after our chickens. We try to live in the community like the people do, and we enjoy it very much. So we had some visitors. We went up to Samaipata to see the mountains there. And so from there, I want to take you to San Jose. So like I said, the original plan was 60% of our time on RTM radio station in San Jose. 2 weeks before we got there, the station was removed. There was no radio when we got there, so we couldn't do that. And so we moved to San Jose anyway. And in San Jose, we have a guest house called Casa de la Amistad, or Friendship House. And it's a beautiful, beautiful facility. It's owned by MEM. And inside, you'll see nice, clean bedrooms if you want to come visit us. This is just one room. This one has a bunk bed. The other one has a queen size. There's a lot of, that's a beautiful facility, so come and visit. It'll be worth your while. So we lived in there for 2 months before our house got ready that we were moving into.
So just keep that right close.
Okay, then I'm going to have to do that. I don't like swallowing these things. So we lived in this place for 2 months. Then we moved into our house. Oh, this is what it looks like from up on top of the radio tower. That's sitting there now. It wasn't there at the time. So just a couple of pictures of the area. In the distance, you see San Jose. This way, you see it a bit closer. Where that arrow is where our house was. And we lived right in the middle of town, and we were surrounded by 3 bars. Bars meaning, well, you probably know, there was loud music in every one of them, and so we had music always. The Spanish people are a very loud people, and they love to share their music with the whole neighborhood. And when you have 3 different ones on 3 sides of your house, it can get noisy. We would just shut our windows, turn the air conditioner on, go to sleep. And we've slept there just fine. We needed a 4-wheel drive to get home. That was the street we drove on to get to our house. Our house was just the first door in, so we needed that. Driving in Bolivia can be interesting, but we were welcomed by the neighborhood. The Spanish people are such a very, very loving, very kind people. And the lady in the pink, it was the owner of the house. She lived next door. And she's a very influential lady in the town. And when she's your friend, then you're fairly safe with everyone because they all know her. So they came and welcomed us.
I had the privilege of teaching her how to make cinnamon rolls. She thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah, so we made friends with the Spanish. We enjoyed their celebrations. These people, for whatever reason, they have a party. Pete said yesterday they celebrate in Mexico a lot. These people find a celebration for everything. And they invited us, and you see the pigs there, and you see the rice and beans. And oh, I don't have sound here on the computer, but we'll just... This was a celebration of the town, and we found out they can have quite the march. It was a beautiful opportunity just to get to know them a little bit. Motorcycles are everywhere. You have thousands of these little 150s to 250s, and you can easily fit 5 or 6 people on one. Plus, well, there's 5 on this one. There's room, see, between the driver and that little girl on the front, there's room for one more. And then they can put tables and gas tanks and all kinds of things they take with them, and that's how they travel. And so, just for fun. Bill Kaler is very, very good at being friends with the Spanish people, and so they have helped him a lot in the various activities that have gone on there. And so he started, every Christmas, he would give them a Christmas package, and he would buy chocolates and cookies and that kind of stuff. And Margaret and Caroline got together and said, no, let's give them something they can't buy in the store. So they baked these goodies, and we handed them out to those people, and boy, did they appreciate that. They just loved those home-baked goodies that we brought them. We traveled to the colony, started driving 3 to 5 times a week. We would drive to the colony 70 kilometers one way on very rough roads and go into the colonies, and that's a distance view of the colony of Nueva Esperanza. And so we would go there and try to connect with the people. And we made friends with some and started doing some ministry. But sometimes when it rains, well, I've had my truck underwater right to the windows. I mean, the hood was completely underwater because you didn't know it was going to rain. You were on the other side of the river, and when it rains, the river just comes up. It's like a flash flood. And it was at night, I tell you, it was a bit scary when all the lights went out, because when the lights are underwater, it's completely pitch black dark. And the current is pretty strong. But anyway, yeah, we've had some neat experiences. Sometimes the roads are pretty rough, and we need our Hilux. We meet some very neat people. This was a family we went to meet, and it's easy to get them together. You can just get a cell phone out, and all the kids come running, and they all want to see it because they don't have screens, and so they all come running, and then you can line them up and take pictures and all kinds of stuff. So we've had lots of fun we enjoy the children, and we invite them, and when you can love the children, then very shortly the parents are also at least softer towards you. So we've met some nice people. We have eaten at the Tailgate restaurant lots of times. And this family, we met them very early on, and we started having a Bible study in their home, 50 kilometers from our home, down dirt road. They lived off the colony, but out in the bushes, 6 kilometers from the nearest neighbors, and just in the bush. And we met them there and started having a weekly home Bible study with them. They came to faith as a result of that. And they were the first people to move on to the new property, the Hacienda Verde. And they've kind of become our children and our grandchildren. We've just adopted them, and we love them. 2 weekends ago, they were at our house from Friday night till Sunday evening, and we just enjoy them a lot. This family lives in San Jose, Johan Kroon, and we connected with them and had Zingstund in their house for 7 months, every single week. We never missed a week until
the one day she was feeling sure that the reason her daughter was expecting is that God was punishing her and for the pregnancy. So she felt that it was time that she told us we couldn't come back anymore. And we had said to them all the time that we would be respectful. If at any time they felt that we shouldn't come anymore, we wouldn't come anymore. So the one day when we came there, that's what she said. She had not discussed it with him at all, but she told us that, and we said that was fine. So we stayed for, I don't know, a couple of hours and just talked with them. We were still friends, and later her daughter told me she really, really missed us coming, but we respected that and left it at that. We
also got together as a team. MEM and had worship services at the Casa every other week. And so we would sing songs and read the word and preach, and we'd have fellowship meals afterwards. And of course, everybody gets around when there's pictures or screens or the recorder comes out. They can't read it, but they can read the pictures. And so they enjoy that very much. Birthdays are very special. These people have never had a birthday party. Some of those people, you ask them, how old is your child, and they don't know. They have to try and figure out, okay, that was and such. They don't know because it's not important. And so when you make their child special by baking a cake for them, this mother said, I would so love to bake a cake, but I haven't got the ingredients. I don't have what it takes. I can't do it. So we did.
So I had the privilege, yeah.
We would sit around and visit in the afternoon, and just there was so much fellowship happened there. And this is a mix of our team and some of the colony people, but we had a really good time. We have Spanish friends, and you see the difference in the coffee cups. That's what we wanted to demonstrate here. The Canadians drink coffee, and the Bolivians drink coffee, and but they get just as much caffeine. It's that much stronger. We participated in a wedding. I think those people are right here, Jake and Naita. Just want to let you know that we remember they were there. They were our first, Naita was our first teacher in the San Jose school, or the Nueva Esperanza. Jake was the second, and Naita was the third. And now, we'll tell you in a little bit what it looks like now. Oops. You know Jake and Naita, so. Then I want to tell you a little bit about the church. We were not the first ones to connect with all of these people. Some of them had been impacted by the church that was meeting in the colony. And under this tree, 5 years ago, New Year's Day, so just a bit, 5.5 years ago, there was the first church service in the San Jose colony was under that tree. And from there, the church started. There was a building put back behind that house. And as you can tell, housing is very poor. Some of the people lived, the one family lived in this house. It'll come up again in a little bit. And from the inside, you can see through the cracks in the wall. When it rained, the whole floor was totally wet. And they were happy that they found Christ. So they moved, or they decided, because the persecution was so heavy, they got tired and decided to buy a property and move the church off the colony. So the property was bought, and the dozers came out, the roadway was opened, and we had to start cleaning up. There was an old building there. You see the safety standards are pretty good. We had to get up there somehow. So Willie Ents and I got up there and we cleaned the tank out. And the kids got busy helping clean the building, and everybody was involved. There was an old building there. It was very smoky and very rough, but they just washed it down and moved in there. And this is where that family moved into, right in that door. We put a water line down and started building houses. When this family that lived in this house, that house is their house. And when it looked like that, they moved in. You can see the edge of the roof. There was no roof on there. They just put some wood across the top and laid their tin on top of it and moved in. Now, there is a roof, and they're very happy. We cleared out the bushes so that they would have a place for shade and for the kids to play and all this kind of stuff behind the school buildings. And the people are always happy. They're just happy that they've got a place to go and they've got the gospel. Sometimes we have some fun. The one family moved in, they brought their horse and buggy, and so everybody got together and they went for a buggy rides. And this family lived in our house for a week while they got theirs ready. This was their vehicle, and they drove their family around in that all the time. They were very happy to have a vehicle. Had to put it inside the garage for the night so that nobody would steal it. And then came the move. So we started moving the building around. Yeah, some of the guys are here. Who did Abe Dewick is here somewhere. Yeah, right there. And there's some more people here who were involved in this. They saw this building, and 5 others were moved from the colony to Hacienda Verde. And well, just watch that little piece. And it did bend. Anyway, we move on. And they were moved to Hacienda Verde, and they were put on that property. And you saw the picture yesterday when Bill Kaler did his presentation of the buildings in place. They are there right now. This was where we had our church service during the time that the church was moving. This is one of the places, and we had
beautiful services. This was right in one of the DARPA, so we figured that there was quite a bit of young people on the outside that day as well. We saw them going away later, so it was pretty neat to see that they were very curious as to what would happen. This was a different DARP, again, somebody's barn that we had church service in after the church had moved off the colony. We had a dream that there would be another church here in the colony, but God must have looked at it differently because he placed us in Villanueva. So at this point, that has not happened yet. We're still praying that another church will open up there at this point. Again, more of this is the church, or was the church that they had at Hacienda Verde. It's over full by now. This was the first church service we had there. One of the Herbert and Elvira Taves, some of you might know them. They are there to help with economic development. This was their home. They had a housewarming party for all of us. It was very interesting how they did that. They didn't want to make a lot of dishes, so they had ralkjong full of fleisch and rebus on the side, and no plates. You just went and got what you wanted, and I thought that was very frugal, very interesting. Church, again, the church, this group of people that are there, lovely people, growing. The church is growing, so it's very neat to see. This is the roof that they've put on at Hacienda Verde now, where they have the church service under now. There you can see that it's quite a large roof with where they do their church services. Again, a service when Abe was preaching this particular day. This is from up an aerial photo. Abe might be able to like to.
Yeah, I don't know what all she told you. I was busy with the other things, but yeah, this is Abe. No, Abe Zacharias isn't here, right? He took these pictures with his drone. So from over top, it looks. That's pictures of the community of Hacienda Verde. So down right here, you see these buildings. Those are those school buildings that we moved over there. So that's just so. From the top, it looks like this. If you look here, there's a house, and I think that's where. Now this is where that red barn is, that red roof that Herbert and Elvira Taves live in. So you see that lots has been done there in that area. So just. Yeah, Erna's is this one right here. She has just moved in there 2 weeks ago, and we helped her paint it. So Erna, you saw her yesterday, and she's just such a gift to Hacienda Verde, just such a sweetheart, such a beautiful work. She's the daughter to Jake and Justina Dick from Belize, and so the niece to Diedrich Dick, the pastor, and just a real gift to Hacienda Verde and to MEM as a whole. So just another view of the whole road where those places are. It's a beautiful property. It's unbelievable what has happened there in 2 years. It's not. We'll tell you where ours is shortly. we don't live here anymore. We live a couple hundred kilometers away. So that's Hacienda Verde. There's the teachers who are there currently. That school has 51 students this year, 6 teachers, and
the other exciting thing is that we actually have a teacher there now that was at Villanueva, which was the first Mennonite church by MEM in Bolivia. Isn't that neat how there's already one of the teachers from there coming onto this colony? It's really, that was a real blessing to be able to send her there.
So those are the teachers there, and Daniel and Karen, the Spanish couple there, are the directors of the school, and so we've learned to really appreciate them. But there's a lot of culture here. You have Daniel and Karen who come from Cochabamba, is a city in Santa Cruz, and then you've got Roxana, the other girl, she's from a different area. So there's 2 different cultures there. Plus you've got Heike Neufeld from Paraguay, and you've got Erna Dick from Belize, and Tina Dirksen from Villanueva. So there's 5 different cultures all together, and it creates its own set of difficulties when they have to try and work together. So pray for them. Here I want you to hear what Arlie had to say. Arlie sent me this yesterday, so I will just let him say it. What's happening? Let me put it on here.
EMMC missions in Bolivia for about 15 years, mainly working in education among the Low German-speaking people. Our kids, Joshua, Naomi, and Gabriela, were all born here, and they share our desire to see more people come to Christ and grow in Him. The main original purpose for us coming to Bolivia was to help start up what's now called the Villanueva School. This school has been maturing over the years to the point where I was able to hand over the director or principal duties to other people last year on February 10th, that's in 2016. So mission accomplished, right? Well, not exactly. Over these last years, many doors have been opening, and we've received requests from groups of families in Mennonite communities to either help them start up a new school, like the one that was started in Hacienda Verde in the San Jose area, or to help them help them with schools that they've already started, but don't really know how to run or to develop. Right now, including Villanueva, we have 6 schools working under my supervision, with requests from multiple other groups for help. But we just can't say yes to more right now, as we're more than occupied already. I need to have some more of these schools become more independent before we can help in other areas. And besides being Director of Education for our mission, I'm also the mission administrator, meaning I deal with finances and legal issues, which aren't always the simplest in a country like Bolivia. But going back to the 6 schools that we work with, all of them are clearly Christian schools, where children are taught by believers, and often from their own communities, which brings its own set of challenges, since a lot of the Low German speaking people here in Bolivia don't have anything more than a primary education, if that. And so a lot of training, advice, and encouragement is needed. Each year, before the start of the school year in February, we offer a week of teacher training workshops for the teachers from these 6 schools, and sometimes we have others that join us as well. But then I visit the schools to make sure that they're able to start up, help them with things like scheduling and so on. And during the school year, I act as the main link between the outlying schools and Villanueva, but also make visits to the schools to meet with the teachers and the leaders. On many of these trips, Eva accompanies me because the female teachers and the wives of the leaders often feel a lot more at ease with her there, and she actually has a very important ministry encouraging them, while I then meet with the teachers and leaders with advice, with further training if needed, and conflict resolution as well. That seems to be a weak point for people coming from traditional colony background, because what they're used to from there is usually force was a method used to deal with disunity or conflict, and so they have new strategies that need to be used. But yeah, as for newsletters, we've been terrible at keeping our essential supporters like you informed from our end of things, but we hugely appreciate your prayer support and your finances that you and your churches provide for this growing ministry in Bolivia. Please don't grow tired of hearing about Bolivia. We've been told that 10,000 babies are being born to Low German-speaking families here in Bolivia each year now, And most of those are to the traditional people living in the traditional Mennonite colonies where the gospel is not clearly preached or understood generally, and so the need here sometimes feels insurmountable. Fortunately, and we're very thankful that God doesn't require us to take care of all the needs in this world, but He does call us to be faithful in doing our part. So thank you for your faithful support to those of us here on the field in Bolivia, and while you continue to faithfully live and share the gospel in your own fields wherever you're at.
Sorry about that. I should have hooked that computer to the sound system, then it wouldn't have done that. But anyway, so there you hear Arlie. That was yesterday evening. He sent me that video. And so that is very current. That is brand new. So that kind of, that takes us to the end of our first year in San Jose. Last year in March, we got the call, and because John and Helen Froese were pastoring the church in Villanueva, about 200 kilometers west from where we were in San Jose. John and Helen were finishing. They're an EMMC couple from Saskatchewan who are right now pastoring a small church in Two Hills, where your brother David is, Peter. I think it's in Two Hills, Alberta. Anyway, they were finishing their term, and this church was without a pastor. And we said, how can we leave a church that we've started without a pastor and go start a new one? That doesn't work. So Margaret and I accepted the call to go there and start pastoring that church. And now looking back, we can see that our first year, with all the difficulties of the work changing and all that, was a preparation time for us to set us up for here. So we're very thankful. So that's a drone picture again of the village of Villanueva. From there you can see the whole, this end is the south end, and then looking down the village to the north end. There's 132 hectares of land there. David Johnson is here, who was very instrumental in buying that property and setting all this up. And so there's a lot of people living there. Our house here is right about there, is where we live now. And the church is right here. And the school that Arlie was talking about is right next door, right across the street. So that just shows you a little bit of where we're at there. There's the church building. My office is in there. We can seat roughly 180 people comfortably. After that, we have to start putting out chairs. We are now roughly around 200 every Sunday, so we're doing well. So I was commissioned as pastor in that church. Bill Kaler was there, our deacons are there, and then John made a big deal of handing the keys over to me, and so now I was in charge. And so anyway, since then we have done a lot of things. That was a year ago. We started May 1st. I was responsible, and so we've had Dick and Judy Harms there, and Judy would tell stories, and then she would have goodies for the kids, and they all come running forward. And so we have, maybe Margaret wants to talk about this.
I also try to do a bi-weekly Bible study, and on the months that there is 5 Sundays, we do something special, or 5 Wednesdays, we do something special, whether it's baking something or whatever, some craft or something different. And it's not a huge amount of people that come. There's quite a few that work already during the week of the ladies, and some choose not to come, but we've had some very blessed time already as ladies together. This is, we did from Befried Truend Glücklich, a program with some of our married couples, which seemed to be very uplifting for them. This is the group that graduated. This is a baptismal class. We've done 2 baptisms the last year. This is again a baptismal class. The one fellow that you see at the bottom there was an older man, or not an older man, but not a teenager anymore. Just take it. And he's doing quite a bit. It's fun to watch him grow. I really enjoyed in class to to watch when the lights came on. He's been a Christian for quite a while, but hasn't always had a very victorious life. And when he in class talked about some of the sin that had happened in his life, and he says, what happens with this? And Abe took him through the scripture and showed him that there was forgiveness and let him read it. And then he took him to Romans, where it says there is now no condemnation for us if we serve the Lord. And Abe says, how many condemnations is there against you? He says, none, nada. He says, that was so fun to see him light up and be so excited about it. They've been married in law in the courts, but now he's excited. He wants the church to bless their marriage as well. So he says to Abe, will you marry us? Abe says, of course I will. So we're looking forward to doing that when we go back now. But it's been good. The baptismal class has a WhatsApp group. They encourage each other. And so often it's him that gives the Bible verses. And that's so neat to see how he encourages the others.
Yeah, for us, that was a real blessing to have that couple there. As you see, she's Old Colony. He got her off the Brechas colony. He had a lot of fun. He said, he was laughing about it. He said, I went to the Altasta. He lived in the colony since he was 13 and grew up there. He speaks Plotich better than most of you, or than many of you. And he says, I went to Altasta home, and I made everything right. I got the forgiveness for all the junk I've done in the colony. And then the next day I took my wife and left. She wasn't his wife at the time. She was his girlfriend. And they lived in Santa Cruz together for a while before they got married, civil. But yeah, and now he's found Christ, and he's actively growing in his faith, and it's so fun to see. And he is now a member of our Mennonite church. And that's, for me, that was a huge joy, just to baptize him and to see him grow. We have done 3 weddings in that year, and this is just one of them. I also had the privilege of baptizing that bride. She was the first from the Deutschlander, from the German group that was beside there, to become a member in our church. So again, that was exciting. One of the things we had not prepared for was how we do funerals. You see that. Maybe you don't recognize it. Some of you do. That's a casket on the back of the truck. It wasn't full. It was empty at this time. But the very first funeral I had to do in Bolivia was Martha Kaler. With that, we found out that we aren't only the church providing funeral services to doing this service, but we're also the morgue. We have to prepare that body. We have to look after it. We have to do absolutely everything. So we've done 2. That one, and one for Johan Paitas. And so we've now got a room that's almost ready so that we can actually properly take care of these bodies. But that was one of the things that surprised us when we started doing that. Margaret is good at these kind of things, and so she, together with Eva Peters and a few others, worked that. And so that's been a big ministry in those 2 services. Jesslyn Hepner was such a blessing to us. Is Jesslyn's dad and mom here? They're sitting here somewhere, right here. Jesslyn was there for 1 year as a teacher in the school, and she can play anything. And she would take any musical event, and she would just jump on the piano and start banging away at it, and she'd make it good. And she did the choir, and this is the school closing from that school that Arlie talked about, the Villanueva. So this is part of that school. It's a closing ceremonies, but Jesslyn led that choir. We did a Christmas program, and our church, we put together a choir. Arlie is a good choir director. He can be pretty strict. He can keep us all in line. So I was going to have you hear that, but because of sound, we'll just leave it alone. But we've had some good stuff.
There's a Mother's Day program as well. We tried to make those days special, and the kids had, Sunday school had we had 49 moms there present that day, so that was quite a crowd. It was a blessing. Sometimes we have different pastors come and preach.
I got to tell you, this is how we keep our people in line. Herbert Taves. Okay, now go ahead.
He had a strek, I quite know what it's called in English. A sharpener for his knife and a knife. And then his lesson was how we sharpen other people or our children. We can do it wrong or we can do it right. If we just do it the wrong way, then it actually defeats the purpose. It gets worse rather than better. And he encouraged us to be careful how we try to sharpen each other. So it was a pretty neat illustration, I thought. Again, a Sunday morning service with different people. We also try to do a social luncheon or dinner, whatever you'd want to call it, every other month. And this is one of those. We're trying to build fellowship that way. We also got involved with some of the LIA Spanish pastors, and this time we were in a leadership conference. Abe did some speaking there.
My first opportunity to preach in Spanish. Well, actually, I would have had other opportunities, but I never dared. Here, I spoke for about 20 minutes, and I did a bunch of things wrong, but they got the message.
I can't prove him wrong. I can understand some, but not very much. Here we are at Bible school that the EMMC church is doing with Peter Friesen. They had a graduation and they had invited Abe to speak. And that is encouraging to see people build their Bible knowledge. Most of the time we're hot in Bolivia, but this was a Villanueva day last year, and it was cold. We both got out our winter jackets. Another one of the Villanueva day. Some of the people that come from there, it'll probably interest them a lot.
This happens in September every year. We have a celebration. This one was the first big one after 10 years of Villanueva, and they had expected about 2,500 people to come. Roughly 5,000 showed up, and they hardly knew what to do with them because they came from everywhere, from various colonies, from Santa Cruz, from everywhere, and there's just thousands of people there, and it was a huge celebration in spite of the cold weather. It was 9 degrees, and the wind was just howling, and they still came. And it was a huge, beautiful celebration of God's goodness. And as one of the leaders of the community said, we are the people who were nobodies. We were the lowest of the low coming out of the colony, and nobody expected that we could ever come to anything. For us to be able to do this kind of a celebration is just a mark of God's work in our lives. And they were celebrating. They were just really, really thankful for what they have received. And so thank you to the mission for that work. Some of the people we are meeting, that we've met, beautiful, beautiful people, so lost. This family has started, well, they've been in our church twice now, last Sunday and then a month before that. But they've come from the colony, and they've said they want to come and they want to become part of our community. They want the gospel. They want something different than what they've had before.
I thought it was really neat. The lady said, vi har inte marachen last gemerkt, en dort vist upplöst nu via Neuva. Så jag blev dort gott lätans nu via Neuva. En intressant var ich, sie haben last gemerkt, wo die kleine Kamel an gedacht haben. Sie hat 3 Finger gehalten. Oh, okay, she held out 3 fingers, and she says one was the old colony to stay where they were, one was Villanueva, and one was to go to the Sommerfeld, where they had been a couple of times. And then one of the boys had to say what one they were going to do, but he didn't know what one was what, and he chose Villanueva. Interesting way, eh? I got a kick out of that. But again, a family that's very broken, that needs a lot of love and a lot of support.
A couple of weeks ago, a bit over a month ago now, we all of a sudden on a Monday afternoon had a family with 5 children show up in Villanueva in a suitcase with some clothes. And they said, we've had it with the colony, we're done. We live here. Totally unannounced, totally surprising, totally unexpected. And what do? 5 children. And they just want to live here now. And so 2 of the families are cousins in the colony, or in the community, and they got together. They put them up in a hotel for 4 nights. We worked with them. And then we found a place that used to be a chicken barn that had been closed in. And they said, that's better than we've lived in before. So we're glad to move in there. And had no windows, no doors, no nothing, just holes in the walls. But they were happy to live there. 2 weeks in, they came to Bible study. They came to church and everything right away. And 2 weeks in, I've got to play you an audio that the lady sent.
Jostin akboyt kosoja fanish haraften staan uitlezen in ons de tuin. En de trafen ons ook alla, vi neemde alla met live on. Plus meer is dat nog zeer wichtig, waar vi nog wat du komt känner att vi ook kan göra sen ans hartnam kräv. Dat har vi för det att svåra sorgen gemer.
Yes, what she said is, Justina, you've sent me a lot of very important Bible verses. I appreciate them a lot, and they fit me. But my concern is, how can I get Jesus in my life? So that was pretty neat. Abe and I went there, and the parents both accepted the Lord that night. And her face just lit up. It was a blessing to see how her face lit up. Then the next day, her kids, all 4 of her kids wanted to accept the Lord. The oldest one was 9 and down. So that was really interesting to watch.
But we've got to tell you what else happened. The next day, we still have to tell you. Then we had told him, now the Holy Spirit lives inside of you. He will tell you what to do from here. The next morning, the Altista from the colony, where they had come from, came over to try and talk them into coming back. And they said, no, they didn't want to. And so the Altista said, but don't you think that the Ichlus, the ban, would suit you already because of all the sins of your past? The coca and smoking and drinking and all the things. And he said, I've given those all to Jesus. He's taken care of them. I have peace. And the Altista said, you can't do that alone. You have to have an Altista to help you with that. And he said, no, my Bible says there's only one mediator between God and man. That is Jesus Christ. And the Altista said, so you don't need ministers anymore? And he said, yes, we do. They need to point us to Jesus. He said, I didn't know I had those things inside of me. I didn't know that. Well, the Holy Spirit is working. We have to go quickly, but the next week, 2 weeks later, we had another couple come in and move into Villanueva. They have 8 children. They called and said, can you come help us? Went over there just 2 weeks ago. And both the people accepted Christ that morning, and they've started coming to church. But so much pain. Anyway, we moved into Villanueva. We bought this property and started working on the house. That's what the house looked like when we bought it. Habitat for Humanity home. And there's the inside of the kitchen. And the floors look like that. Now it looks like that. This was taken on Monday morning, this picture. We even decorate our yard a little bit. This is Margaret's kind of art. There's the kitchen now. So
and this is Abe's kind of art. He built all my kitchens for me. When he first said, I will do it, he had never built anything with wood before. When he first said that, I thought, I wonder what that'll look like. He did really well. I'm very pleased.
This is the front porch, and it is very important to us. we can't fit everybody in there. There's only about 600 square feet inside that house. So we do a lot of hosting. Abe Giesbrecht is here to verify that. We have a lot of people who come through here. So this is where we do a lot of that. As you can see, we have meetings there. And our time's up. Okay, we quickly have to tell you about radio. As I said, the radio was removed from San Jose. A group got together and started talking, and they said, we have to have radio. And so a group of individuals has gotten together, and they've started a radio group called Radio del Campo Boliviano. And it is a group of individual radio stations that have joined hands. They work together, but each one of them is individually, personally licensed so that nobody can come and take it away. And it is very exciting to see what's happening. We have 3 of them running right now, 6 licenses. And just so you know, if you want to help with radio, ours is already supported by the conference and by various missions, but the others are individuals trying to run radios, and they're having a difficult time finding the money. There's opportunities to help along, and we need that very much. So just your MEM staff, Bill and Martha Kaler, you know about Martha. She was killed earlier this year, and that was late last year, and that was a very tragic event. And so Bill is leading alone. He's our field director. Herbert Noguera Taves come to us from San Jose, from Paraguay, as economic development. The Heberts, Alvin and Leonarda, are working together with that, trying to work up a dairy plant. And then we've got the teachers. So Daniel and Karen with their little girls, and Ileana, she just got married on Saturday. She's now in Belize as of yesterday. Joanna Peters from La Crete, Alberta, is teaching English in Villanueva. And Roxana teaches special needs people in San Jose. Erna is there from Belize teaching whatever various ones. Henry and Caroline are looking after the Casa de la Amistad, doing a good job. And Heike and Stanley Newfield, she's a teacher, and he does whatever comes. He's a handyman. And Willie and Margaret Entz are preparing to come in September as the pastors of that church. So these are their grandkids. They're not coming to Bolivia. And there's my most important team member. We had gone to a funeral, and so she dressed up so we could go there to the Old Colony funeral, and we had to show her off. That is the entire team. So we have, oh no, Eva Peters is not on there. So very quickly, if you want to support, we need support with radio, but especially with Bolivia Relief. We have, and if we could tell you about that, we have needs, huge needs. A family with a 25-year-old, we believe he's schizophrenic. He needs help, and we have no way to help because we haven't got the expertise and we haven't got the money. And Bolivia Relief has no money right now because we haven't been telling you that it's there. And so we were asked to tell you about that. We need Bibles. There's lots of good stuff being done. Thanks.
Don't go far. You've got 2 minutes for questions, and I'm sure there are some. You see, they're not just sent out there not doing anything without needs being there.
Could you say something about the Centrum, the drug and alcohol rehabilitation program? Is that no longer running?
They're going to say a little bit about the drug and alcohol rehab center, which is near the Villanueva.
That is about a 10-minute drive from our house. It is actively working. There are currently 2 people who would call our church their home church in there. The husband and wife are both there, and they're working. Some people come out of there victorious, some of them not. And so there we often have to look after the children when the parents are in there. So that's a huge issue that needs prayer.
Yes?
What kind of drugs are prevalent there?
What kind of drugs?
Alcohol is the biggest, and then we've got the coca. And they chew coca, and it does all kinds of damage. Not the coca itself. The coca isn't actually the problem. It is when they mix it with baking soda that becomes a problem, and they get just terribly addicted to it, and it's very damaging to their system.
Another question quickly? I'll call David Jansen up. David and Elizabeth have lived in this for many years, and they've been back in Canada now for about 3 years. 2 years, he says. And I think, well, David's seen a lot of the development of Villanueva. He's lived through some of the things that Abe and Margaret have experienced too. So I've asked David to pray for Abe and Margaret and also the work of MEM in Bolivia.
Thank you, Abe. It's good to have been here these last few days. Abe and Margaret, when Mark talks about church should be a messy place, I know that you know that church is sometimes a messy place, and you live in a place that is very special to us. And I want to pray for you. I want to pray for the MEM team. And I haven't seen you lose your voice very often, but that's okay too, Abe. Let's pray. Father in heaven, we just come before you this afternoon. We thank you that you are a God of grace and mercy, God, and you have sent us your Son, Lord, to just to save us, and Lord, for us to proclaim that message to others, Lord, because you want to save them as well, Lord. You want to have a relationship with mankind, and Father, but we live in a broken world, and Lord, help us, help Abe and Margaret, help the MEM team in Bolivia, Lord, to proclaim that message very clearly, as Mark has told us here in these few messages that he's brought to us, Lord, that we need to preach Jesus Christ and salvation in the gospel, Lord, as the center of everything that we do, Father. I pray for Abe and Margaret that you will just bless them, give them strength, give Abe his voice back, Lord, and just bless them as they go back and work with the team and the people. Lord, we know that they are just at the tip of the iceberg, Lord, and that many thousands of people, many thousands of families will come and seek help from you, Lord. Help us, give us strength, wisdom, energy, and the funds to do so. In Jesus' name, amen.